Okay, I'm going to start my session. So on the age of consciousness, the last 2-3 years, I have been talking mainly on the age of consciousness. In my talk, I talk as a keynote speaker to large companies and organizations globally. So what is the age of consciousness? It's this, let's say, awareness that is now happening and bubbling everywhere, I think, on the human consciousness level, that we become more aware of like what really matters to us. And now, of course, with the crisis of the COVID-19, everybody is in an acceleration of that consciousness. I don't know how many of you feel that they still want to go back to the period before the corona, and how much of you will actually also believe in a different future or work towards a different future. I think that is the big question. So in my belief, we have this Cartesian split. Since the age of Descartes, that I think, therefore I am, we live in this separation of everything from the mind and the body. And we can see that in everything that we do, in the rationalization of everything. So in the way we work, the way we create systems, the way we build technology, the way we even do agriculture and build food systems, everything is built around that separation, if you are aware of it or not. So there's also this separation between nature and culture. So everything we do is actually, a lot of the processes that we have, a lot of the existing economy is built on the extraction of resources and the extraction of value of nature. So this is now also coming at a limit. So we need to move into different forms and different ways of building systems. So we are also living in this economy of addiction. So we are addicted to food, we're addicted to fat, to fast food, to sugar. We are addicted to materialism, to shopping. We're addicted to binge watching on Netflix, sometimes porn online, social media, information. We're even addicted to work, and we don't even realize it any longer. So the moment we realize, we can start doing something about it. So it's very essential that we are aware that we are actually living in this addictive society. We're also living in this society of control. So where everything is actually controlled, so we can behave in a certain way. So we can actually feel happy without really being connected to ourselves. And live our lives pretty happily, but actually unconsciously. This is basically the pattern we live in. So we need to move towards a society, or from a society of control towards a society of trust, a society of learning, where we can do continuous learning and trust each other. And how do we build these new systems? So everything is also very ego related. So everything is built from the ego, which is actually addicted to outside validation, to outside confirmation. If you look at a lot of the things that are happening now, it's all basically, I need to be validated from the outside. My work needs to be validated. My message on social media needs to be validated. My picture needs to be liked and all that. So everything is outside validation, whether the true value for the future is all about self-worth. How can I be in sync, and how can I be in peace with myself and with nature? I think this is the big transformation that we will move from. We will need to move from digital transformation that everybody is now still in, or we still think that this is the ultra economic savior for all of us, towards personal transformation, meaning digging deep inside us and connecting to ourselves in order to find peace and value with ourselves and the world around us and the people around us. So this society of control, this society of addiction also leads to a lot of burnout. 50% of the people are burned out. Yeah, hopefully now everybody got a break during the COVID. But even the latest results I read from The Economist was like nearly between 35 and 50% of the people wouldn't like to go to work any longer after Corona. So, which is also a sign of like that people actually now got used to a different style of work. And why would I need to go to work to sit behind a desk? Yeah, so I think everything is going to change after Corona, from the way we work, the way we communicate, the way we value ourselves, the way we will build technology, the way we will respect nature, towards something else. Also, uh, we live in this world that everything is built on competition. Yeah, everything is competition. Yeah, even startup competition, even the way we act with each other is all about competition. People in social media, they just have opinions. You know, my opinion is more worth than your opinion, or they just have opinions. But opinions don't mean anything. Yeah, opinion is just an opinion. It is not a connection. It is the result of that separation. Yeah. So everything we basically learned in that old rational system is based on knowledge. And knowledge was basically the value from the old system. And the new system that we are moving into is all about wisdom. How can we acquire wisdom? How can we acquire better knowledge of ourselves? How can we acquire better knowledge to work together to create value for each other in our societies? Yeah. So are we truly thinking? Yeah. So because how can you think if thinking, or how can you think outside of the box if thinking is part of the problem? Right? Because everything is taught. Everything is a thought pattern. Everything is a thought addiction. We need to move more towards also feeling and felt. How can we relate to each other? So I think there is a lot of movements or in my network. We see a lot of changes already with leaders from communities. Sometimes they're totally not connected on the internet, and mostly also a lot of people are working into blockchain as a new value system for that, to create different type of values. Yeah, so away from that society of control, away from that society of ego and dominance and all that, and extractions of resources. There's a lot of great initiatives, also regenerative cultures. I don't know if you know about from lots of people are working in communities towards regenerative cultures, which is actually start from the self in relation with nature. And according scientists and specialists, we're going to need like 2 to 3 decades to actually undo what has been done badly so far. So there's a huge amount of work to do actually to go back to where we were. So if we want to preserve our natural ecosystems. So I believe we need to go towards and look at ourselves and creating a higher version of ourselves. How can we become a higher version? How can we become a better version of ourselves? You know, letting go of the old and actually building new ways of collaboration and working together. So I wanted this more also to become an interactive session. So I would like to stay open for questions if there are any questions from the audience. Does anybody has a question?
What is competition personally for you?
Competition means that I have something that another person doesn't have, and I'm going to use all my strength and my power to make that product or service or whatever better than the other person. Also, I think in competition, there is less value than in collaboration. Does that answer your question? Any other questions? So also then, I'll keep talking. My interest these days is mainly about how technology can serve towards these new type of cultures, of regenerative cultures, yeah, that go beyond the classic perception of like sustainability and alternative energy. So how can technology help? Because the way technology is being built now, it is built from a perspective of control. Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity with technology, but on the same hand, also there's a lot of control in technology. Yeah. So the way everything is built is based on this competition and control principle. Yeah. So it's not really an open principle any longer. That's why we need new systems where people bottom up can start uh, coding different type of systems with different values. So in the work that we do or that I do is all about first to create human values. Yeah. So what are the values that you live by? What are the values that you want to work by? What are the values that you live by with your family, your friends, and your communities? And once we have those values, we work around dreams. What is it that you dream? I believe that a lot of people have forgotten to dream because everything is now coming from the outside world. Yeah, so we cannot even be without a screen any longer, or in many situations, and think for ourselves. When we wake up, do we listen to our dreams? Do we listen to our own thoughts? Do we listen to our own values? Or do we take the phone and then look for outside information, outside validation, often related to work? So I think many people lost the connection with self, and we need to go back to that connection with self. For that, yeah, we need to dream again. So what is it that I can dream? What is it that I dream about for myself and my community? And I believe a lot of great things will come out of that. Yeah, without actually, we need to disconnect from what is out there, the outside world, and really go inwards and connect to ourselves. Because inside lies all the answers for anything. Yeah. We often look for validation because we don't love ourselves. We don't have the love to ourselves. And if we cannot give love to ourselves, we cannot give love to others. So everything that is related to that also relates to the work that we do. So I think I'm going to leave it here. Are there any more questions?
Hey, I want to ask a question.
Yes.
So more or less, we know that collaboration is better than competition. We need to be thinking for ourselves. Our community values are important. But how does one start manifesting all these things that we already know? Because there are so many talks around this, but how do we start doing it? Thank you.
Thank you, Janai, for this question. The way that I actually started my transformation was that I literally went into burnout. Yeah, a couple of years ago, I went into a burnout and I had the realization that everything I knew did not serve me any longer. So that I literally had to start changing myself. So I went into a sabbatical. It was with a philosopher of mine. And I actually went into questioning a period of a couple of months of self-inquiry, questioning myself, my belief systems, my assumptions, my addictions, my traumas, often childhood traumas, because often we are totally not able to connect to ourselves any longer because we push all those, feelings away. So we are not longer feeling any longer. I think there are many tools outside that are available in personal transformation. You know, there are people like Tony Robbins or all these people are doing work on Gaia.com, for example. Meditation works really well. There is another book called The Artist Way from Julia Cameron. She wrote it in the 90s, and it's actually a book not just to read, but actually to do your homework. So in there, she has a concept, what she calls morning pages. And the concept is just that every day you wake up and before you start doing anything else, you write down everything that is coming up in your head or in your body or whatever you call it, and just write. And so after a while, you will realize in the beginning it looks a bit silly because like you write out any type of thought that comes up in your mind. But after a while, you realize that actually by writing, you are connecting to yourself. So there are many ways to connect to yourself. I think by writing is a great tool. Morning pages is a great tool. Meditation is a very good tool, but it might take some time before you're able to actually really connect to yourself. And then there are lots of programs out there. Recently, I tried a program here in Ibiza from a friend of ours, which is also linked to changing the habits, changing the way you eat. Yeah, so it's with an 18-hour fasting, so you don't eat during 18 hours, and then you eat during 6 hours. And then it's with an increased dosage of vitamins and detoxifications. So, and that works really well because it literally drains or drags all the body cells out of your body, and your body cells are renewed. You know that I think it's every 75 days or something, our body cells are renewed. So during that whole period, you actually also a bit paying attention to your food and how you eat and behave and changing your patterns, you actually renew your body cells. Because the idea is also that your emotions are anchored in your body cells. So all these emotions that are old, that are there for your whole life have been sitting there. That's why thinking doesn't really work alone. You need to embody certain experiences. And that's why when emotions come up, we always feel it in our body. It's like they take over our body. Yeah, but actually, it's very good to let those emotions come out because it's a healing towards the future. And when these old emotions come out, then new cells and new circuits in your brain and in your body starts actually are being created. So you become that whole new being. Yeah, but that you can finally also leave your old self behind and become that new being that is actually free from restrictions from the past. Does that answer your question? Okay, so anybody has another question? Please do. I'm here to answer your question. Oh, sorry, somebody muted. So unmute all, sorry. Okay. Yes, please. Now you're unmuted. Anybody has a question?
I'm not sure if you can hear me, but I would have a question.
Yes.
Hi, I just joined, so I'm sorry I missed the first part of your presentation. But what I'm interested in is to know how, consciousness and how to say acting on emotions and within the business world. I mean, how can you? We seem to be a bit at a tipping point where these kind of concepts and this type of dynamic is entering into business. I'm just wondering how you can sort of measure that, and what kind of actions or what kind of what's necessary in order to to bring more of that those good things into the business world and into decision making within business.
Yeah, we use a model called conscious business model design, where actually we bring all these exercises into a workshop model, and then we let teams actually, or we work together with teams, how they can create or how they can integrate these new values into their business. Yeah, we are convinced, or I think most people are convinced that the old way of doing business doesn't work any longer, right? So it's really, if you haven't figured that out, then you're totally blind. Yeah. So, and many people probably are still in that mode. So we believe that you can change that, and in all the companies that we work with and the communities around us, there is a lot of change happening actually. Yeah. So we start from the values. We work on purpose-driven work. Uh, we work with methods called Socratic dialogue. Have you heard about Socratic dialogue? Socratic dialogue is a method that we apply, which is actually about the art of listening. Yeah, so instead, because usually in companies, meetings, they don't serve any longer. Why? Because nobody's listening to each other. We just listen to the thoughts in our head. Yeah. What am I going to say after him? How is my idea going to be perceived? Yeah. So, and then in Socratic dialogue, actually, we train the people in really in a very short time to actually have more meaningful dialogues where when you want to talk, you need to repeat what the person before you said, which means while you do that, you cannot access your own thoughts, right? So you are really listening. And then when we really listen to each other, we can actually create a collective intelligence. Yeah, so, and all the dialogues that we do, they have amazing results. They connect on a deeper level, they connect the teams on a deeper level, and they embed actually already deep human values, because we are all very great human beings already. We are just constant in this noise from the outside and doing things and perform and this and that. So the consequence of that, of this pattern, is that technology will be better than us very soon. In 1, 2, 3 decades, technology will do all that a lot better. So are we going to behave in a way like robots, or just doing tasks and just doing routine? Or are we going to create another world, another economy, which is based on human values? And I truly believe that this is the right moment. Also, we are working on this already for a couple of years to go towards that economy of being, as I call it, right? That we're gonna create more human to human type of services, because technology will exist anyway. And with technology, I think it's a great thing that is happening, that technology and robots and AI can do all the work, all the task and routine-driven jobs that we didn't like to do in the first place. Yeah, we just need to look at the rebalancing of like, what's the balance in the world? What's the equality in the world? Like, who's owning what? But if we want to create a future for ourselves that is meaningful and joyful and happy, we will need to think of doing things differently, not just doing tasks and routines, because that doesn't really make us happy. They just lead to burnouts.
Thank you. Are you familiar with B Corp?
Yeah, we know B Corp, but B Corp is just another, let's say, expansion of the existing system.
Okay.
Right? It's like all the major corporations now are gonna become sustainable. All of a sudden, they're gonna invest in green and technologies and all that. But still, it's not the answer, right? Because technology keeps moving. Yeah. So okay, if we make everything more greener and all that, it's perfect. But we are not changing the way we work. It's not changing the way we think about life. Yeah.
So you
So I
don't,
think
at
that
this stage, you
yes.
don't, at this stage, you don't see that some organizations like B Corp are embodying this approach, or these values, this way of looking at things.
I don't think they go far enough. It's a good step, but it's mainly, yes, because I have money, I can afford to act like this, right? Yeah, so yeah, they do good in a certain
you have
way,
a sort of pyramid
but
of needs. Yeah.
exactly, it's the, yeah. So it's not really solving the problem, I think. One of the main issues that I see also is the way that corporations work are part of the problem, because corporations need to make profit. So as long as we keep extracting resources out of nature and resources or value out of people, that doesn't work any longer. So I literally think that we are on the verge of an entire new system that is now emerging. Yeah, so it might take 1, 2, 3 decades, but in that time, we will literally create entire new systems, like the way we have used capitalism the last 150 years or 200 years. Yeah, it's going to change, and we're going to move into new systems, and technology will help us. Things like blockchain is already showing us how we can do things differently. And a lot of the young people that we are working with, a lot of the young generations, they don't want to work with corporations any longer. They don't want to work just on coding for the internet any longer. They do it on blockchain for a purpose-driven, issue. Yeah, because they believe in a different world. They don't believe in the old world any longer.
That's true. Okay.
Is there any more question? I think we have 2 minutes left.
I have a quick question. What kind of platforms can we create to accelerate this faster? Do you have any ideas for that?
I think it's a very good question, because one of the realizations also is that all these innovations and what I'm talking about, or all these communities where this innovation is happening, are not really connected on the internet. Yeah. So one of the things that we see is that lots of these communities are in their own pockets, local pockets, doing amazing work, but they are not really connected yet. So we also have a platform called Conscious Learning Tribe, consciouslearningtribe.com, where we actually try to connect all these communities. And we do a conference every Sunday, which is called theunconference.com, where we bring in people from those communities also to talk about these issues. So, yeah, I think I need to close the session here. To answer your question or to finalize that, I think there's a lot of opportunity there in creating this new type of platform in a new system with new values. Because the platforms that are out there existing now do the opposite. Okay. Thank you very much for all your interest. And yeah, you can follow me at consciouslearningtribe.com and at theunconference.com on Sundays. Thank you.